Four-Wheel Drive Mechanics magazine and HD video network uses a Honda XR650R for its video filming in the field. For remote filming venues, we've chosen the Michelin T63 tires. This is a true multi-purpose tire with reinforced knobs that resist tearing and chunking on asphalt with excellent traction and stability for off-pavement use. They're DOT legal as well. To meet our needs, we've chosen the 130/80/18 rear tire, rated for a maximum speed of 111 miles per hour and load capacity up to 300 kilograms for the rear tire. This tire carries a 66S rating. Despite the uniform tread block design, this is a directionally mounted tire. For predominantly off-pavement use, we turn to the Michelin Cross AC10, a tire designed for 90% off-road, 10% road use. This offers excellent traction on a variety of terrain. It's especially good on hard-packed trails. It's DOT legal with a rubber mixture formulated for long tread life. It resists tearing and chunking even under hard use. A true knobby tire? Note the sipes that give this tire traction on pavement. The Michelin Cross AC10 meets the legal requirements for our plated dual sport motorcycle. For our tire tubes, we again turn to Michelin for premium quality matching tubes. Our Honda XR650R began as a dual sport conversion, suited for a video filming platform as well as a subject. Age is a factor with tires, and we know that these tires are too old in addition to having low tread. Let's change these tires out and I'll share some tips. Tools are always important, good tools and bad. These small irons have their place, but they're also notorious for pinching tubes. I like these large tire irons that date to the era when I rode a BSA 441 Victor. They have smooth, curving ends that are much easier on tubes and the bead of the tire. Tire dismounting always begins with removing the valve core and letting air out of the tube. Use the correct tool here. This tire and tube will be discarded. Loosen the tire rim lock completely so that it's not dragging on the tire. Push the rim lock into the tire. Unless you have rim protectors from Motion Pro or others, use an old tire tube to protect the rim and push the opposite bead into the drop center of the wheel rim. Using the drop center takes the load off the bead. As you can see, these front rims, being large in diameter with a smaller tire, are much easier to service. Take small bites if you find too much resistance at the wheel rim. At this stage, the tire can be walked off the rim. Once you have the top bead loose, you can remove the tire tube. Now remove the rim bead lock. The rim band can come out next. Use care if you plan to reuse this rim band. Now the opposite bead can be lifted over the rim from either the top side or bottom. The pieces of rubber tire tube help protect the rim. Now it is loose enough that we can push the tire off the rim. This motorcycle was purchased used. When we inspect the wheel rim, there's a bulge in the rim from rock damage. The wheel is made of alloy, and most of the time an alloy wheel will split when impacted like this. Fortunately, this is the extent of the damage. With the use of protective rubber, a C-clamp and a block of wood distributed over a broader section of the bottom rim, we'll try to pull this closer together without breaking the wheel rim. The tire will run true because the rim edge on the bottom is perfectly straight. This top rim now has a slight bulge that's within the tolerance for runout. The tire won't run out because the lower rim edge and bead seats are straight. Inspect the rest of the rim and make sure that none of the nipples have rough edges that could damage the rim band, or worse yet, the tube. This quick test for loose spokes is a traditional method. We refer to this as spoke Tuning. Listen to the pitch and you'll get a sense for when the spokes are loose. Michelin recommends the use of Rouglide, a product that has been in the market for a very long time. Rouglide helps remove tires from a rim and also cleans up rubber products without damaging the rubber. A noteworthy property of Rouglide: it will not allow tires to spin on the rim. And this is not always the case with creative alternatives that some use for lubricating tires during mounting. In particular, homespun alternatives that contain petroleum distillates or might otherwise damage butyl rubber should never be used for mounting tires. Slick oils and lubricants should always be avoided. They can cause the tire and tube to spin on the rim. If you're reusing the rim band, place it over the spoke nipples in exactly the location it was at before you disassembled the wheel. Align the rim lock and valve stem holes carefully. Use the tube recommended by Michelin for the specific tire application. Inflate the new tube to remove all wrinkles and creases. The new tube has 2 lock nuts. Make sure that you use the factory method for securing the valve stem. Deflate the tube enough to put it inside the tire. Talc reduces friction on the outside of the tire tube. Make sure you're using pure talc and not cornstarch. Commercial talc is available from tire tool suppliers. Always examine the tire sidewalls for this arrow indicating the direction for mounting. Coat the tire beads and the rim edges with Rouglide to help mount the tire more readily and prevent damage to the bead. Keep the bead and rim edges slippery. Install the tube carefully and evenly. Make sure that it's completely in the tire with no folds or creases. There are several methods for mounting the tire and tube together. Here, the valve stem is inserted into the rim and one of the nuts is placed on the stem. The bead lock is placed under the rim band at the opposite side of the rim. Keep the rim band aligned properly. Place a lock washer on the stem of the rim band and start the nut several threads. The rim bead lock remains loose at this point. The tube is aligned and held in place by the valve stem and nut. Apply Rouglide with a rag and a spray bottle. Coat the tire bead and the rim edge thoroughly. Continue applying Rouglide during tire mounting. These 3 tire irons will work best for tire installation. The brake rotor is facing upward to catch the handles. Work the tire onto the rim at all times, being cautious about the tube. Using this mounting method, the tire and tube get walked over the rim bead lock together. Always keep the opposite bead in the drop center of the rim. This provides the maximum clearance for the area of the tire that you're working with. Mount the lower bead first. You'll need the upper bead above the rim to provide the amount of clearance for installing the lower portion of the tire. Once the lower bead is over the rim edge, you can drop the upper bead into position. To avoid pinching the tube, do not roll the tire iron around the edge of the rim. Always make sure that the tube is inboard of the tire before inflating it. Wetting with Rouglide all around the bead edge will help the tire seat more readily. Make sure that the tire and the tube are centered up and that the valve stem is straight in the rim. To allow enough clearance, we remove the tire and rim from the clamps of the tire changer. The valve stem nut is tightened finger tight to hold the stem in position as you air the tire. Install the valve stem core if you removed it earlier. Using the right tools will save time. I like to inflate and deflate the tire several times to get the tube to expand, allow it to contract, then re-expand it. This helps prevent kinking and folds in the tire tube. Here, it took 30 psi to get the tire to seat on the rim. I dropped the tire pressure to 20 psi and secured the nut, then secure the bead lock on the opposite side of the rim before deflating the tire tube again to make sure that there are no kinks, folds, or wrinkles in the tube. Now I inflate the tube to normal pressure, check the valve core to make sure that it's secure. I now remove the outer valve stem nut because Honda uses a grommet in this position instead of a nut. This allows more flex and reduces the risk of shearing the valve stem. Install the valve cap. Inspect both sides of the rim to make sure that the tire bead has seated completely and evenly at each rim edge. Once again, make sure that the directional arrow is pointed correctly. In this case, the arrow is opposite the rotor. This rear tire is oversized. We'll turn the sprocket upside and put the rotor down, covering the sprocket teeth with tape to prevent losing knuckles. Again, start by loosening the rim lock stud nut. Here's one way to break the bead. This tire will not be reused. Add some wood blocks if you want to protect the tire. Now you can break the bead down quickly. This tire tool with its broad head and curvature at the end is very easy to use for breaking down the bead. The pair of long-handled tire irons are ideal for leveraging this large tire off the rim. Once again, the use of Glide is absolutely essential, providing a slicker surface and reducing the stress on tools and the tire, especially in cases where you want to reuse the tire. The long handles of the tire irons can be stuck underneath this sprocket as you leverage the tire off the rim. A large tire like this has a very stiff bead edge. This may require small bites with the tire irons. Taking large space bites can put more stress on the bead, even tear the bead, distort it, or damage it. Glide can help here, reducing friction and making the bead more slippery so it will slide over the edge of the rim. Never overstretch the bead and take advantage of the drop center at the opposite side of the tire from where you're prying. Remove the tube next. Remove the rim bead lock. Pry the lower bead upward from the bottom side as shown here. Don't forget the Glide to reduce friction and make this operation a lot easier. Gradually work the irons outward. The combination of prying, moving slightly outward with each pair of pushes. At a given point, you can push the tire off the rim using your hands as shown here. Next, remove the rim band. Time to clean up rubber with Glide. Clean up the rim bead lock. Use Glide to clean the rim itself of any debris and rubber residue. Check the spokes for looseness and out of tune. If you're reusing the original rim band, be sure to install it in the same location. Align the band with the nipples and the rim bead lock. Install the rear tire in the same manner as the front tire. Note that this tire is a directional type and make sure that the tire is mounted in the correct direction. Match up the tube type as per Michelin's catalog. Use talc on the tube and Glide on the tire bead and wheel rim. Mounted on the motorcycle, These Michelin T63 tires are now ready for testing. Before riding, dispose of the old tires and tubes in an environmentally friendly way.